Merry Christmas, everybody. Check it out before we get into the episode. Look what I'm wearing. The It's Christmas shirt. You can either get one of these for free whenever you join my Patreon for $10 or more, or if you want, you can also buy it outright at store.saygoodnightkevin.com. But of course, in all reality, the Patreon deal is the better deal, I will say. What I like most about it is the fact that, unlike the It's Christian shirt, which is also a fun one, this one is a lot easier to explain to the nurse whenever you go to the doctor. The nurse is like, "Oh, what's your shirt mean?" Well, see, here's the thing. There's this YouTube channel, and, well, every time, I mean, he is a Christian, but he's kind of making fun of Christians, but it's really, this one is just like, oh, it's a picture of a guy who's super excited about Christmas. It's way easier to explain to all those people who just don't get it, and you don't have time for those people, do you? I don't know. Juan Castellanos, aka John the Hillbilly, check him out on Twitter, did a great job at remixing his original design. It's got a Christmas hat, got a little snow around. Get it while supplies last. There's all kinds of cool stuff over at that store. Of course, we've got the shirts. We've got 50% off right now of any vintage Say Goodnight Kevin stuff because we got the new logo. In fact, if you bought anything at the Say Goodnight Kevin store this year or pledged to my Patreon, hopefully you got one of these stickers in the mail. Carmen and I just wanted to say thank you to anybody who supported the channel over the course of this past year, from buying a shirt or pledging to the Patreon. It's been really helpful, and it's thanks to you guys for helping keep the lights on and keeping the show going. It's a blast. All right, let's get into the greatest Christmas movie of all time. Let's go. How's it going? Welcome to Kevin Sits Here and Watches a Thing that was sent to him in his mailbox. That's the name of the show. I'm sticking with it. I'm barreling through. Today, we're watching a show called Mr. Scrooge to See You, not I See You. Wow, that would be an interesting show. Ebenezer Scrooge and ER come together. Intensive Care Unit of Ebenezer Scrooge. Every time somebody doesn't die, they're like, "Whoa, you did it all in one night." And he's like, "Yes, I did." And then they're like, "God bless us." And he's like, "I didn't even sneeze." You guys notice I just say the same jokes over and over? Good, I'm glad somebody's paying attention. I don't know much about this. It does say A Christmas Carol, the next chapter. So I guess it's kind of like a sequel to A Christmas Carol. I love A Christmas Carol, A Muppet Christmas Carol. That's the one that I love the most. You might remember this was sent to me in one of my mailbag episodes. Whoa, a fairly entertaining story involving time travel and a pretty neat idea. I would love to see you review it. So they want me to review that movie. Let's watch the show and see what it's like. Mr. Scrooge to See You. I wish it was spelt with a 2. To See You. Inspired by A Christmas Carol. You think? They didn't get permission from Charles to do this, though. Tori Martin's in it? Jeez, that guy is in everything. Maybe he's the ghost of Christmas Present. He'd make a good ghost of Christmas Present. All right, so the movie begins in an extremely foggy London, 1844. I was worried this was going to be a modern version, but clearly this is of the past. Spooky. Ah! So David Marley shows up. John Marley? Bob Marley. He shows up and starts narrating.
It was 1 year ago that Ebenezer Scrooge was shown the misery of his miserly existence.
This is Scrooge going through his PTSD. That night of ghosts and spirits left a long-lasting impact that wasn't talked about much in the book. Somebody left the smoke machine running.
You might say he has seen the light.
You'd be wrong. Whoa, let there be light. What an obscure reference. You might say he has horrible breath. So as Scrooge walks home, he starts having this Christmas Carol flashback, and he comes up upon this door. Come in and know me better, man. But he can't come in because he can't get the door open. You can just go around the door. Look, there's nothing stopping you, Scrooge.
You're looking for these, Scrooge.
New Tile Christmas Edition. They'll help you find your keys and your soul. But don't worry, it was all just a dream. And I would tell you what happens next, but fortunately, Jacob Marley reappears to explain it all to us. Cool. Now that is some awesome special effects action coming right up out of the floor. Man, I think my parody of Scrooge is better than this.
Hi! Remember this?
My name is...
We know, we heard Scrooge tell you.
I am Scrooge's partner.
Still?
Actually, former.
I thought so. But I'm kind of still alive because I keep showing up in his house every single Christmas. It's a little weird, I'm a little obsessive, but what am I gonna do? I'm a ghost. What?
They said, as dead as a doornail.
That was a pretty good joke to begin the book off with.
That would be a bit of an oxymoron.
Anyway, speaking of morons.
If I don't arrive at the office before Bob Cratchit, it will spoil everything.
Okay, so after Marley is done haunting Scrooge and playing practical jokes on him, because apparently that's all he has left now in the spiritual world, we cut to present day, where we see some homeless people being fed in a diner.
Cheese omelet.
With extra cheese.
Who said beggars can't be choosers? These guys sure are. She's the Christian, but this Hispanic lady, she doesn't like the fact that she's a Christian at all. She's got a lot of things to say about it, too.
For once, it would be nice if the ordered up came from some customers that paid up.
Yeah, well, it would be nice if you learned some English.
Matthew 25:40. The Bible?
Here we go.
Here we go. I don't know what the Bible is. Then, in walks what I can only assume is modern-day Scrooge.
This is the prize property you wanted me to see? Think boutique condo.
It's Tim.
Tim,
Tim? Him?
why would your dad want you to date someone with money?
I'm only allowed to date homeless people. Don't you understand? Well, the diner lady apparently has a history with Tim, so she goes over to talk to him. I shouldn't have cut my hair like this yesterday.
So you work here?
It's worse than that. I own it.
You didn't tell me you knew the owner. Actually, we almost dated. But it's not good to mix classes.
Meanwhile, Belle's homeless friends are giving her a hard time about this customer she was just giving coffee to.
Who's your boyfriend, Belle?
He isn't my boyfriend.
We know, that was the joke.
I'm just a customer, and you never look at me that way.
Leave her alone, gang.
We know we're not supposed to mix classes.
Sorry for the interruption.
Who's your boyfriend, Belle? Stop! But it turns out Tim isn't just there for the great food, as he has recently acquired the mortgage on the diner, and Belle is pretty far behind on her payments.
I guess we are sort of in business together.
Oh no.
You'll see in that document that you have until December 25th to be completely caught up in the loan payments.
December 25th? But that's Christmas Day!
Pretty positive mortgage lenders don't send out their president to make these types of calls, but I don't know, maybe they do. What do I know? Meanwhile, in the past, we cut back to Scrooge living his life. And boy, wouldn't you know it, he's sure become a bucket of joy ever since last Christmas. He's so excited about this Christmas, he decides to pull a little practical joke on his employee, Bob Cratchit.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Scrooge.
Merry Christmas? Every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas.
Okay, Mr. Scrooge, you've played this joke like 10 times this year.
It's just that I
Thought you'd be done with these stupid jokes. Scrooge uses his practical jokes as an opportunity to get out the pent-up anger that he has, playing this character of the jerk that he just says, I'm just joking, it's me, classic Scrooge. But just when Scrooge wasn't fooling anyone with his practical joke, it turns out, no, he's got some good news for Bob Cratchit.
You are now my partner.
Life partner.
Your partner.
Partner!
I have made you my husband. Merry Christmas. You just got Scrooged!
How is that fine young son of yours?
Because you'll never see him again.
Tiny Tim? Very well.
He's actually gigantic Tim now. All right, so this long practical joke thing was just a way for Scrooge to let Bob Cratchit know that he is now going to bring him in as a business partner. Now that's over. What could possibly happen next? Before you know it, Scrooge is time traveled. What the? My goodness, it's a time traveling Scrooge! I'll be honest, this just got really interesting to me. I love time travel movies, so I mean, I know this is dumb. There was a feature films for families. It was about how a girl got time traveled back to the Great Depression, and it was probably cheesy, can't remember, but it was really interesting. I might watch that sometime. Meanwhile, Tim and his partner are coming up with some plans. Wait a minute. That's a picture of Bob Cratchit. So does that mean... No. Does that mean this is supposed to be Tiny Tim? Well, that doesn't add up chronologically. Or geographically. Turns out Tim has turned into the guy from the Fountainhead.
What about those vagrants?
Where will they go?
I don't care.
Look at me, a guy with an office in a strip mall. I don't have time for these lowlifes.
As soon as we foreclose on the dinner bell and the rest of that neighborhood of make-believe.
That's right, I hate Fred Rogers. This really drives home the misunderstanding of what the story of Scrooge really is. I think Scrooge is the product of way too high taxes.
Are there no prisons? And the union workhouses, are they still in operation? They are. And the treadmill and the poor law, they're still in full vigor, I presume? Both very busy, sir. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. Those who are badly off must go there. It is enough for a man to understand his own business without interfering with other people's. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Here's a rich guy who's being overtaxed, and he's like, why would I give to charity when I'm already being taxed so much of my money that's going towards a system that's not even working? So there, as you would expect, Ebenezer Scrooge makes his way into the diner. And there we get a fun little segment where, you know, Ebenezer Scrooge is trying to figure out how ketchup works.
I am Ebenezer.
What a dickens of a name. Mr. Scrooge ends up recapping the story so far.
After suffering from a most unpleasant dream, then I made my way to my place of commerce, at which time I surprised my partner in the firm. And then I left to do some Christmas shopping to find myself here.
United States of America?
In what year?
It's 2013.
But the Mayans predicted this would never happen.
Your partner was just here earlier.
Bob Cratchit?
Not Bob. Timothy Cratchit.
Tiny Tim? I do not understand.
Oh my goodness. So eventually, they don't exactly work out all their misunderstandings here, but he finally decides that he needs to go to the financial institution to figure out what's going on with his business. Scrooge asks this guy how to get there.
Once outside the diner, turn left.
And we have to sit here and listen to him explain every single turn. And if you think that sounds a bit tedious, now we're gonna have to watch him try to figure out where it is. Boy, they're sure filling time in this one. And I'd love to say that I'm exaggerating too, but I'm not. From the time that Scrooge walks out of the diner with the expressed intention of having a conversation with Timothy Cratchit, to the time that he walks into the office and has said conversation with Timothy Cratchit, is literally 20 minutes of stupid, pointless hijinks. Let's check some of them out. First, he just can't find where he's supposed to go. Then he sees Tori Martin on the street dressed up as Santa and confuses him for the ghost of Christmas present.
Greetings, spirit of Christmas present.
Now, to its credit, this scene is the only scene that has any redeemable lines. Some of them are kind of funny.
Ho ho! Ho ho ho!
What do you want?
I am here to know you better, man.
Oh. Dude, you better step off. I'm about to dump a couple lumps of coal right on your head. You know what I'm saying here?
Even the funniest scene in this movie, it drags like crazy.
That guy's tree is short a couple of ornaments.
Great special effects there. I just think it's funny because, like, the cover of this didn't look too bad. I was like, oh, that looks interesting. It's not interesting. Eventually, after a very, very long and drawn-out sequence, it's embarrassing. Like, edit these movies. Scrooge ends up talking to Timothy Cratchit. This is not interesting at all. Like, it's so dragged out, and by the time this movie ends, I don't know how long we've got. I'm gonna check. I thought it was almost done. I guess it has enough time to pull the old It's a Wonderful Life thing where the spirit comes right close to the end. Speaking of Christmas, real quick, just remember Naturally Silky Soap. And they have gift boxes, which really work great. So if you're looking for something for your mom, for your sister, maybe for your dad. I mean, dads like soap too. Go ahead and check out naturallysilkysoap.com. Be sure to let them know that I sent you. All right, let's get back to this awesome movie. Maybe doing this show was not a good idea. So as Scrooge sits down with Tim, we get filled in on all of the information as to what has happened with his ancestry and who this guy actually is. So all that guessing I was doing earlier doesn't matter. Now we find out all the answers we need.
Tiny Tim, your great grandfather.
If I could give one piece of advice to Christians, stop making 2-hour-long movies. If you think, for most people, yeah, but for my movie, it needs to be 2 hours. It doesn't. If I'm gonna watch a 2-hour-long movie, it better justify, like every second better be worth it. This movie could have been like 15 minutes. There's so much time wasted. So now we get, of course, a montage. And it's totally pointless. I'm glad the youth pastor was willing to record this song for this movie. I'm drowning myself in a bucket so I don't have to watch this stupid movie anymore. What is this? Come on. My goodness. Get on with it already. There she is, doing her taxes. She can't figure out how she'll pay those bills. When I'm lost or down. Honestly, I hope this montage ends up being an hour long, so I can just say, cut it out. Cut it out. Cut it all out. Well, much like I'm sure the editor of this film, that montage leaves Scrooge homeless and alone, destitute on the streets. Say a prayer for me. Which works out perfectly because that's where he runs into his friend from the diner because the homeless people, remember?
Oh. You were in the dining establishment early this day.
Yes, I was. You're not from around here, are you?
No,
No.
I am new to this world.
Missouri. No. It's Little Ben. But as Scrooge falls asleep, he has his recurring dream. Oh, please, I didn't think anything could look worse than the Jim Carrey version of me. He's in for a rude awakening. Get it?
Come back.
Oh,
Mr. Scrooge?
What?
I'll spray you.
That's right, you filthy, nasty, homeless guy. Oh, crap. Well, after Belle shows her true colors about what she really thinks of homeless people, her and Scrooge go back to her place.
Tea in little bags.
So Ebenezer Scrooge is sitting here in a room full of modern-day appliances, and what impresses him the most is tea in little bags. All right, so somehow the subject comes up as they're talking that she is going to lose her diner to Tim Cratchit. So he starts racking his brain and trying to figure out what to do. That's when we get the most crazy realization ever. Scrooge still has
the very beginning of Scrooge and Cratchit Financial.
the contract that he signed with Bob Cratchit in his pocket. That'll definitely mean something. So, of course, the logical step next is for Scrooge to go get a cell phone plan. And then get the girl who speaks Spanglish to teach Ebenezer Scrooge how to speak proper American English.
You just made a mistake. So what do you say?
My bad.
Perfect.
What?
Me gusta tomar el té.
Why is he learning Spanish now? I mean, honestly, I don't know what the plan here is anyway. What are they gonna do with that contract? But on top of that, what? I don't know why I question these movies because we're about to find out. They take the contract to Timothy Cratchit and his little crony, and they examine it personally. Yep, it looks like it was done yesterday. Now, before the naysayers out there go and try to say, well, what gives this guy the credentials to do this? The movie's got you covered on that one, too.
Well, as you know, I minored in document recognition and authentication during my undergraduate studies at Princeton.
Wow, finally an airtight script.
It appears Mr. Scrooge is entitled to a half interest in the firm of Scrooge and Cratchit Financial.
That's not how it works. So, Scrooge becomes a partner in the firm. Just like that, didn't you know? You can just walk into any company, and as long as you've got proof from 100 years ago, you can just run the company. I don't know what's going on right now.
That the annual rent on the New Britain Crossroads Youth Center has been lowered by $1,000 a month.
He's destroying the business. Isn't that wonderful? I think if Tim Cratchit here was better able to communicate, if he could just say, hey, look, I can't just make you a partner in the company just because you show up with this piece of paper. We're going to have to discuss this. You can sue for this, but you're not going to get it because your time traveling theory isn't worth it. On top of that, what he could do is say, look, I understand you think that you're doing something nice, but honestly, we're a business, not a charity. So we're going to charge what we think the market demands.
It's the mortgage to the dinner bell.
It's all yours.
On one condition.
Call off Scrooge. I want him gone.
Why would this happen? Somebody would show up from 100 years ago, but she doesn't take the deal, of course, because she's a strong, independent woman of principle.
It's called loyalty and friendship, Tim.
Yeah, ever heard of it? Whoa, dude.
You really think you know what you're doing?
So now that Scrooge is partially in charge of Scrooge and Cratchit Financial, he's really making some changes and bringing in some Christmas cheer.
How'd you like a Santa sucker?
This is the worst message I've ever seen. This is quite the straw man of business owners and financial institutions. Man, when I worked at a company, I hated having to do Christmas parties, birthdays. All I wanted to do was work. I'm a Scrooge. But it turns out that young Timothy Cratchit is not a fan of Scrooge making things more festive, wasting more company money.
Let me hear one more thing, and you'll be spending Christmas in hell.
What a Scrooge! All companies should be charities. Nobody acts like this. People who care about making money aren't, necessarily people who hate Christmas. This is a false equivalency.
Tiny Tim once told me there comes a time in life when everyone needs a crutch.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is when we get the greatest twist of all. We find out.
I'm an orphan. I was abandoned.
What? What a twist! Holy cow! And this opens up the door for the greatest moment of all cinematic history. Scrooge takes Tim's pain and twists it into the gospel message.
You are an adopted child, not of man, but of God through Jesus Christ.
You don't know me. No one does.
Is this movie almost over? Later that evening, when Scrooge is walking home, he has another hilarious encounter with some modern marvels that really blow him away. See, because he doesn't know what balloons are. He thinks he's being visited by spirits again.
Torment me no more, spirit!
This is not funny. Audiences will thrill during the Scrooge fighting a blow-up Santa routine.
Once more unto the breach, dear friend. Imitate the action of the tiger. Set the teeth and stretch the nostrils wide. The breath and bandy spirit.
We've got about 50 more bucks in our movie budget. Well, buy some of those blow-up Christmas things and we'll pop them. And I want us to film the whole thing and put it in the movie. No cuts. All right, I'll torment you all no more with that pointless scene. Let's cut over to Timothy Cratchit as he is finally visited by one of the spirits. Ha! What did I tell you? I knew it all along. I should write these movies.
Why me?
Because you're the jerk. Ugh, why are his hands so fat? So he sees himself in chains and is immediately visited by the ghost of Christmas future. Suck. Well, apparently that 5-second haunting is all this Timothy Cratchit needs to decide to turn his life completely around.
I can change. I can change.
I want to live again. I guess it would make sense that 21st century Scrooge wouldn't need all night and 3 ghosts to come see him. One ghost shows up and he's like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I'll change, I'll be different, I swear.
I've been rude and condescending.
And self-aware.
By Jove, I think you've got it.
Jacob Marley?
No,
Matthew Marley. I don't know where this script is going. I don't know. It's kind of dumb. So it turns out that homeless guy actually is not a homeless guy. He's just LARPing as a homeless guy, but he's really a pastor at a church.
You're not homeless?
Jesus.
I'm so confused.
I always think about this whenever it comes to people who pretend to be homeless. They're like, I'm gonna be homeless for a year, just to understand the plight of the homeless people. I just think it's demeaning. You're going there by choice. You can get out anytime. They can't. But we don't have time to worry about that because we're about to get another big twist reveal.
There's something about Belle you should know.
But what is it? What is it we never learn? She's a murderer. Boy, that would be a twist, huh?
Cheese?
Jesus?
It's all yours.
Now that Timothy has had his big transformation, it's time for him to go down to tell Belle he's not gonna take the diner. Spoiler alert.
I had a sit-down with a couple of friends.
That's a 19th century way of saying I went to the bathroom.
Tim.
El diablo.
The mortgage on your diner was forgiven.
Tim, I told you, I'm not cutting any more deals.
No dills. I'm not cutting any more pickles, okay?
What are you up to?
There is something here that belongs to me.
Here it comes, like a snake in the grass.
I don't think her character was necessary.
To claim my family, my sister.
You know?
What? They're brothers and sisters? Boy, that really makes the beginning scene at the diner a little weird.
Actually, we almost dated.
But she's my sister. Of course, that's not important information right now. Do you guys feel like maybe, just maybe, the Scrooge thing is a bit of a gimmick?
Realidad, Belle y Tim son gemelos.
Twins? They're twins. And who's her father? Darth Vader?
Oh.
So that means that Mr. Tall, apparently nice and handsome, is available.
I know you're nice in the streets, but are you a Diablo in the sheets? What am I doing? Don't put that. I just realized what face I was making. Don't put that in the video, please. But now it's time for Scrooge to say goodbye. This takes about 10 more minutes of the film, and then Scrooge killed himself.
He fell off the balcony!
I was just joking.
I punked you!
You just got Scrooged! He punked us! Hey, fellow kids. Back at his own time and place, Scrooge gets a text message. Good night, Kevin?
Well then, it is yours.
Mine? Thank you, Mr.
Scrooge.
Thank you, Mr.
And what's your name? Oh, my name's Samsung.
Gates! William Gates, Governor.
Yes, Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, the makers of the most popular smartphones. Does it make any sense?
Jesus, who was born in a stable, died on a cross.
Okay, we get it. Boy, this turned out to be a lot more Christian than the original, didn't it? Feels like the movie's over already, but I'm continuing to watch because I don't know if there's going to be another twist in this. I don't want to miss a single moment. Can't believe Dick Clark is one of his ancestors. Oh, 1 year later. Do we have time for one more Back to the Future reference? I think we do.
What are you doing here?
I have no idea. I was on the treadmill in the company gym, and the next thing I know, I'm here.
Why is Scrooge at a modern day house?
The end.
Or is it? You never know. Stay tuned for Mr. Scrooge 3 See You. Well, there you have it, everyone. Mr. Scrooge to See You. And what an adventure that was. Well, how did I feel about that movie? It was kind of crap. There's a lot of boring stuff in it. Boy, it dragged out. That did not need to be 2 hours long. Please, Christian filmmakers, I beg you, do not make a 2 hour long movie. It's 2 hours long. Cut it down. Number 2, A Christmas Carol is a Christian story. It is about a man who he's living his life one way, and there's a story of redemption, and he comes to the realization that he can be better. He becomes a Christian. It's there, but it's not in your face. It doesn't say that in the story. That way, everybody can enjoy it. This movie is like, well, it wasn't Christian enough. It's just such a perfect example of the difference between a well-made, subtle, interesting story and the way Christians tell stories today. Now, I'm not saying that Charles Dickens was a Christian. I don't know if he was. I'm not quite sure. He could have not been a Christian. It doesn't matter because the story of redemption transcends faith. Like a story of somebody becoming a better person. Those are relatable storylines because those are things that we can all connect to, and everybody universally can say, wow, somebody's a better person whenever they start caring about others instead of themselves. But I think that that is definitely something that God has put and instilled in us to care about. It's really weird having watched so many bad movies. It's like I watch one and I'm like, well, this isn't that bad compared to a lot of the other stuff I've watched. Maybe this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I don't know anymore. That being said, this movie, I guess it probably had a low budget. You know, I heard the other day, Quentin Reviews, somebody who I watch now and then. He's another channel. If you like my show, you probably like his. Seems like such a nice guy. But he said something about how
this is what constantly watching bad movies does to you. It makes you somewhat nostalgic for previous painful experiences because you're currently living through a hell much worse. Once again, I feel shocked at how my standard for the quality in films is constantly shifting the more that I have to watch bad movies. We must think of a name for this phenomenon.
That really resonated with me because I was like, wow, that is so true. It becomes harder to say, well, this movie's so bad, I can't get so mad. I usually just take into account all the different factors. This movie, as a movie, was super boring. The concept, I guess, is good to have Scrooge travel through time, but the subtlety and the intrigue, everything about the original story is gone. The execution of this is very bad. The budget clearly is very low. This isn't just like, let's make a crappy movie so we can cash in. But this is a crappy movie. This is very poorly done, and it drags. Ooh, it drags. It doesn't take money to cut stuff out of your movie, so please cut stuff out of your movie. That's probably the main takeaway I have with this film. And then also, it's just so on the nose, blatant, in your face, like, oh, you were adopted? Well, Jesus could adopt you. What? Anyway, thanks for joining me for this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of try something new on my channel. I love trying new things, and I hope that this is enjoyable. Big shout out to Kyle, who did all the editing for this. This is the first time that he's edited something like this down, and hopefully, if he's hearing this, if he's seeing this, that means that he did a good job and he chopped it down. Here's the link to his YouTube channel, and he talks about movies and that sort of thing. He talks about all kinds of stuff. Talks about video games, I believe, too, sometimes. I could be wrong. My apologies if I'm wrong on that. Thank you so much for watching this episode today. I've got more Christmas stuff coming up very soon. Big shout out to those who pledge $40 or more at my Patreon, specifically the Lawson family, Andrea and Phil Lawson, along with their kids, Daria, Cooper, and Stacia. Here they are right here, sent me this picture, and I don't know who that guy is in the back, but doesn't look well. Then, of course, Jacob and Emily Rugrock, and Amanda Stewart, who has also been supporting the show for a very long time. These people are awesome. Thank you so much. That's all I gotta say. Thank you so much for watching today. I'll talk to you all later. Good night.
Mr. Tall, apparently nice and handsome, is available.